Welcome back. All right, so news of the day video for your Wednesday. We'll start off with the news coming out of Pittsburgh that Sidney Crosby and Brian Dumoulin are the latest members of the Penguins to have tested positive. Crosby has symptoms. Dumoulin is asymptomatic. The cases we've seen that are asymptomatic, they tend to come back faster than those who are showing symptoms who are normally out for a full 10 days. So, of course, it's bad news in that Crosby's only had the one game after coming back from injury. But again, we're seeing this around the league. I don't put everybody who goes into and comes out of the protocol on the board because it's a large list, but we haven't seen team-wide spread at this stage. It's very slow, and really it's not of the severity of last year, where of course the biggest instance would be in Vancouver, where you had basically almost the entire team down at the same time. And they were out for quite a while. And then when they came back, they were not themselves. And there's the argument about whether or not there's certain players who may still have had the effects. Brandon Sutter, of course, hasn't played yet this year. There's discussion about whether or not that's what derailed Olli Juolevi coming into this year as well. So, yeah, what we're seeing now is not the same as what we saw last year. And so hopefully Crosby and Dumoulin are back as soon as possible. Letang is back, so, 6 in one and a half dozen in the other. And the Penguins have done the best that they can with the lineup they've had for the entire season so far. So we'll see how things go. Also making news, and there'll be more to report on this later. I'll just leave this here where Aaronscaldy, the wife of Jared Scaldy, is launching a lawsuit against the Pittsburgh Penguins for their handling of a sexual assault claim she put forward. And Bill Guerin's name's been put into this, and there's some debate about how much of a part Bill Guerin played in this. And of course, Bill Guerin is rumored to be the next in line to be named GM for the U.S. Olympic team in 2022. And so You go from Stan Bowman to Bill Guerin, and again, they haven't officially announced it. From what I've seen, this could go either way. Maybe Bill Guerin's completely exonerated when all the facts come to light, or maybe he plays some role in this, and naming him to the Olympic team becomes problematic. But he absolutely could be exonerated. I don't want to, underscore that as if like he's in some kind of major trouble. But he hasn't been cleared. So Safe Sport was doing an investigation, and they're going, well, we're good, we're happy, and from all reports, it sounds like they're saying, okay, it's fine, but it may or may not be, and so there's still the chance that this could come up, and of course, Guerin's currently the GM of the Minnesota Wild, so all right, so that's your Pittsburgh part of the news. On the New Jersey side of things, there's no update on Dougie Hamilton. It's a lower body injury, but it sounds to me from the way it's being reported that it's day-to-day. First off, that they weren't really providing an update between periods. They never said, well, he's not coming back into the game. There was no update, so it's close. You would think that it's not something that's major, so we'll see. Mackenzie Blackwood was the backup last night, so he's expected to get a start soon on this road trip, and that could be a huge boost to the New Jersey Devils as well, having Blackwood back in the lineup. And 100% good to go. One of my favorite young goaltenders. Also in New Jersey land, though, I've got to agree with Jeff Villette on this. I don't know what Trevor Zegras does to make people angry, but last night he takes a trip from PK Subban, which is resulting in a hearing today, which means Subban is getting suspended. So in the preseason, there's a trip that looks accidental. Then he gets fined for a trip that didn't look so accidental and looked a lot like a slew foot, but they said it was a dangerous trip. So I've seen people responding with, what, he's going to get suspended for a trip and not for a slew foot? They called it a dangerous trip last time. Slew foot, I mean, there are various ways a slew foot's going to look, but a technical slew foot, it's different than what he did the first time, so I understand why they call it a dangerous trip. So, Zegras got Paquette suspended and now likely gets Subban suspended. Zegras is a very fast player. I guess if he's not able to play, he's not quite as fast. But this is that escalation. This is what this is what the whole system's meant to do, where you get fined the first time, and then the second time you do it, you get suspended. So while we can debate whether or not player safety should have suspended Subban the first time, now they're going to, and so we'll see how long that suspension is. My guess is a game or two. That's my guess. So the Winnipeg Jets have sent Burden back down to the AHL and brought Vesalainen back up, which means that Hellebuck's back. Congratulations to him on the new baby and all that. I still stand by what I said yesterday. Vesalainen with 1 goal in 8 games. I understand he may be playing already, maybe playing well, but he's a skill guy, and if those skills aren't translating into goals and points, it is possible that either he or the team decide at the end of this year it might be better for him to be somewhere else. That's possible. Think along the same lines as like Jack Roslovic. When Jack Roslovic ends up moving on from Winnipeg because he's not going to get his break there. And he had a very good run in Columbus last year. This year it's been more of a slog for Roslovic. I also want to talk about yesterday's press conference. Kevin Cheveldayoff and Mark Chipman talked to the press about all of this with the Chicago Blackhawks. Here's the thing I found weird about it. It was 70 minutes long. They answered questions from everybody, including multiple questions from Rick Westhead. And they didn't have to get told to answer a question from Rick Westhead by other reporters, which Bettman did. And Bettman clearly wasn't happy about it. He didn't want to answer anything from Rick Westhead. But what's interesting to me is that the Jets, it feels to me there was more emotion and humanity in what the Jets had to say. The Jets weren't the team that was involved, and Kevin Cheveldayoff was the lowest ranked person in that meeting. And it feels like there was more contrition in their press conference and more humanity and feeling to it than what we saw in the NHL press conference or the way that Joel Quenneville took about all this. So I find that so bizarre. But kudos to the Jets. I also thought it was nice that Chipman mentioned the charity work done after the passing of Rick Rippon. And anytime they mention Rick Rippon and they say, look, it's important that people deal with this. And then Sportsnet also had a 1-800 number there for people who might have been upset or triggered or who are going through a lot of things right now. So I thought that was really, really well put together by Sportsnet. The weird thing was that then I thought, okay, is TSN covering it? And they may have covered the start of it, but they didn't carry the whole thing. So, at least not on the networks that I had, and maybe on the online, right? Maybe through the streaming, but I didn't see it on any of the networks that they were running it on. Whereas on Sportsnet, it was on there in place of Tim and Friends. So, yeah, big up for the Winnipeg Jets, thus the Jets garb. And, I thought Chipman came along. And here's the thing, too. Chipman came across as pretty smart. He is one of the more powerful owners in the league. He has a lot of money. And he did say, the NHL, they need to look at leadership, and they need to look at their messaging, and they need to look at all this. Now, people will read between the lines and say this means that the NHL is thinking about firing Gary Bettman. This is a sign. I think what's more likely is this. Gary Bettman is lawyeristic and very good at the legalese side of it. The humanity part, the part where you're dealing with this kind of thing, I don't think that comes naturally to Gary Bettman. And so I could see a situation where, and they kept asking him, should there be an outside counsel, a third party that's looking at this? Should we have a third party for these kinds of issues? I think that's where it's going to end up. I think we'll have Gary Bettman doing the day-to-day business stuff, the business side of the game that we know he's good at. And then for the humanity side of things, they may bring somebody else in. Maybe they hire somebody else. And they go for somebody that's relatable, that can talk. Sheldon Kennedy's name gets mentioned a lot. I could see someone of that ilk ending up in that position. Whether or not it would end up actually being Sheldon Kennedy is a whole other question. He has not been contacted by the NHL. I thought it was weird that Gary Bettman said that they hadn't been in contact with him because his experience was at the junior level. Well, it doesn't really, whatever level it was at, I don't understand. So that I found kind of weird. Because Kennedy also played a long time in the NHL. And so, right, so he has some NHL experience there. But there was also mentioning of Sheldon Kennedy's course and all that. So I have the website bookmarked for Sheldon Kennedy's company that he's a part of. And I'd be interested to see how that whole course works. And it's on dealing with this kind of thing in sports, right? That has happened with Kyle Beach and trying to create a safe environment and all that. So, yeah, there's a lot of interesting things that could come out of this, and I really think the NHL will change its structure a little bit. So, yeah, Bettman probably keeps that job as commissioner, and then for the more HR side of things, for the punishments being doled out for some of these, whether you want to call it criminal activity or immoral or just, whatever activity you want to label that as, I think the NHL is going to bring in somebody and hire somebody else to take care of that side of things, because I think it's the way Bettman's handled this that they have a problem with. Not the business side, but that side I think they have a problem with. So, yeah, again, big ups to the Jets, and yeah, I really think that was handled very well. That press conference was very well done. They even went overtime. So even when they could have ducked out and said, sorry, that was the last question, they went past the time. Chipman even said, I know we're past where we're supposed to finish, but I need to finish my thought on this. So, again, so back into National Hockey League news. Pavel Francouz on the ice before Tuesday's practice, but while it was supposed to be a 3 to 4 week injury, it looks like it's going to take a little bit longer for Francouz to make his return to Colorado, which is not necessarily that surprising. Francouz ended up missing the entire season last year, and it feels like maybe it takes him a little bit longer to heal up than it might take for somebody else, which is, I understand. I know how that works. It takes me a little longer to heal up from things too. So, yeah, hopefully Francouz is back soon, because I really like the goaltender quite a bit, and I think with he and Kemper, I think that's a pretty solid tandem, and I think, for every 10 starts, Francouz should get 3.5. And so hopefully that's what happens, because you don't want to wear out Darcy Kemper, right? Last night in the Calgary-Nashville game, Brett Ritchie had to be helped off the ice after a fight with Mark Borowiecki. Yeah, Borokop's a tough one. So hopefully Ritchie's okay. Won't miss any time for Calgary. His brother's having a harder time with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I believe, than what Brett Ritchie is in Calgary. But the expectation for Brett Ritchie in Calgary is lower, and I think maybe the expectation for Nick Ritchie in Toronto was too high. So there's that. And finally, also in the protocol discussions, Borgstrom returns for the Chicago Blackhawks, while Tyler Johnson and Isaac Phillips have been added to the protocol list. Tyler Johnson had been out with soreness anyways, so now that he's on the list, he's out for a little bit. We'll see how long. Like I said, some players are on the protocol list for 3-5 days. Some are on it for 10. And, yeah, it all depends on the situation. Doesn't always mean that they're testing positive either. There are other guideline-related reasons why they would be on the protocol list. And so we'll see if this starts to change anytime soon. I think, again, the NHL was going to make changes to it, and everything going on with the Chicago Blackhawks pushed that back. There you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.